Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Force of Will community. This is Pearlshine. My name is Ryan Lilly. I'm back today with another deck profile video just for you. Got a few things in the works for the channel moving forward. Uh, I am going to be trying to put together a few other segments just as a little bit of a heads up. My buddy Toby and I are going to be trying to do a card discussion uh, once a week or so, maybe a couple times a month, where we just take a card from any point in Forcible history, ones that are typically considered to be less than playable, and give them a little bit of a new meaning in today's Wanderer meta, possibly making them relevant. Who knows? That's for you to decide. Second, I'm also going to start doing something if you guys want to submit your deck lists to me, either in the form of a link in the YouTube comments or if you want to email them to me directly. Uh, that's totally acceptable. I will be doing what I'm just going to call for now Honest Opinion Wednesdays. I'm going to take a viewer's deck list, should there be one, and I'm going to review it, give my honest opinion, and show it off for the community. But that's not all. Today, like I said, we have a deck list. Just like last week, this is Force of Will Fridays. And, well, before we get started, I just have one more thing that I need to say. If you have not already signed up for the Ruler School Force of Will Festival, taking place on November 5th and 6th in Kalamazoo, Michigan, please make sure you do that. I will try to put links down in the description for the registration, etc., in hopes that I will see you there. But time to get into the rambling. We're going to talk about a deck list today, as promised. Today we have Road to the Ebon home, featuring Gill, Conqueror of Attoractia. So this ruler is actually suggested by a viewer. My good buddy Jeremy Franklin has been listening to me come up with dumb ideas for years now, and I asked him this morning, I said, Jeremy, what's a ruler you want to see? And he said, Red, Black, Gill, Lapis. I'm like, say no more. I owe it to you. So I have put together this list for Gill Lapis, and we're going to talk about it. You're going to listen to me, and you're going to like it. I'm kidding. You don't have to like it. You can click away. I'd prefer you didn't. It'd be real cool if you stayed. Anyway, so here we go. Gill Lapis, Conqueror of Attoractia, is a Wanderer ruler from Rise of the Dragon Emperor. This is back in Lapis cluster, of course. He is red and black, and he has a judgment for a whopping 8 mana. Thankfully, that is able to be reduced by the number of cards in your opponent's removed area, which he can do once per turn for free. If a card would leave your opponent's field and go to their graveyard, you can pay 0 to target that card before it leaves and send it to the removed from game area instead. Uh, yeah, he also has good energized colors. That's what we really care about here. The fact that he can energize for red or black, because I've got some shenanigans going on in this one. So let's go ahead and go over his judgment. Like I said, he does have a judgment cost for the for red black 6, which hopefully will be reduced. The backside of him is Gil Lapis, the Rebel of Darkest Fires. He's also a wonder. He's 1,000, which is fair. But he does have an ability: pay 0, put a card from your opponent's removed area on the bottom of their deck, and he gains either Swiftness, Precision, Flying, or First Strike until end of turn. That is repeatable. You can do it more than once in a turn. So you give him Swiftness and Flying, Swiftness and Precision, Swiftness and First Strike, any of those things, or all of them if you want. In addition, you can also pay X to play a card from your opponent's removed area. Now, keep in mind, we're running 3 colors in this deck: red, black, and green. If you want to play a card that is blue or white, you cannot. There is no way to produce that color will in this deck. But anything else is fair game. If you've got the mana to play it, you go right ahead. You pay X, you play it for free, and you can only do that once per turn, but that's on anybody's turn. Like, ooh, that's a real juicy uh prototype Magi Trooper you got there. I'd like to draw a card. Pay 0 on my turn. Play it. Draw a card. Your turn. Ooh, that's a nice feast thing you got there in your remove from game area. Pay 1. Hey, boom. There it is. And actually, I just realized now that I have recently learned to read, there's actually no color restriction. I just have never paid attention to this. It's actually a little better than I thought. So you're paying the cost as X. So if it costs, let's take Garion for instance. Garion costs black, black, green, green, 1. So a total of 5 mana. Let's say I'm playing a mono white deck. I don't know why I'd have this guy as my ruler, but if I do, I can pay 5 white mana, and then I can play Garion from their removed area for free. So you pay the cost of the card you wish to play with whatever color wheel you have, and then you get to play the card. So just ignore me. Like I said, let the rambling begin. Here it is. All right, we're going to move right on into the meat and potatoes of the deck. We are going to use some of his best support that mainly has to do with his name. And it all comes down to this guy right here and a couple other cards. Phantasmal Ascendant. For the low cost of 1 red mana with Quick Cast, I might add. You can get a 4/4 body that puts the top card of your Magic Stone deck into the field, and it gains at the end of the turn. You put that card back on the bottom of your Magic Stone deck. Okay? That's good enough. We've seen this before. But the goal in this deck is going to be to reuse your Magic Stones as much as possible. So we're going to move right on, and I will get to the real strategy here in a second. Lorite, 7 Luminaries Astrologian, 1 mana for a 1/2 elf. That's completely irrelevant. He does some other stuff, like with Spirit Magics. We're not playing any of that. We don't care about that. He just cancels any activator automatic ability. It's amazing. You should play Lorite. It's sad that you should play Lorite, but you necessary evil. You should play Lorite. Moving on. Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. This guy right here, gross. He's gross. Red black for a 7/7 with precision and Bane. He's a dragon, like that matters. You can pay 600 life and discard him to deal 600 damage to literally anything. Target player or J/Resonator. It's real good. You can also pay 600 life and discard him to draw a card. Also real good. Now, in the event that you've done this turn, or in a few other situations, if you take damage, you can pay red and black to play him from your graveyard, and he gains swiftness until the end of the turn, and then you have to sack him. Not that big a deal. It is a repeatable threat. It's something that can happen. And there are quite a few situations in which you may lose life in this turn, in this particular deck. So Sealed One-Eyed Dragon is just a bit of a consistency tool, some removal. He's good. We're going to move on. Next we have Athenia, Deity of Harvest and Corruption. This is our recently freed girl from the ban list. Athenia, Deity of Harvest and Corruption is a 3-cost Resonator. Green, black, 1 for an 8/8 High God. When she enters the field, you can choose Harvest or Corrupt, and you get to either, if you choose Harvest, you recover 3 Magic Stones. If you choose Corrupt, you rest all of your opponent's Magic Stones. You only get one or the other. She does have an ability, Rune 1. If you have a Rune revealed from your Rune deck, you get to choose both, but we're not playing a Rune deck. We don't have Divinity. We can't play one. And then she's got 2 abilities that I particularly care about. Specifically, the one that's the first one. Green. Put any number of cards, target cards, from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. Or black. Remove all cards in your opponent's graveyard from the game. This is why we're playing her. We're playing her for grave manipulation. We can reuse our cards by using Athenia to recycle them with the green ability to put them back on the bottom of the deck. So she is good. You want to see her. You want to play her because she's going to help you repeat your threats. Next, we have 4 copies of Garion. Garion is the, let's be real, he's one of the win conditions. There's debatably another win condition, but this one right here, this is the scary one. This is the boogeyman that you want to get on the board as your win condition, eventually. He's like a secondary strategy. You want to do some other stuff to screw with your opponent first. But he costs green, green, black, black, 1. This 5-drop Resonator with he's 1500 with swiftness, flying, and precision. And your opponent can't play spells that cost 1 or less. That's a lot of the good cards in the game right now. They cost 1 or less. Sure, there are some that cost 2. but it's whatever. 1 cost or less can't be played by your opponent. Super powerful. In addition, you can also pay green and remove him in your hand from the game, so directly from hand to remove from game, to cancel a spell with total cost 1 or less. Or you can pay a black and put him from your hand into the remove from game area, and you can destroy a resonator with total cost 1 or less. He's very good. So Garion is we're going to be leaning on him for our big heavy hitter. Next, of course, we do have 2 copies of the Ultra Magic Stone Golem. We're playing a Magic Stone centric deck, so there's a few names. There's going to be some shenanigans going on with the Magic Stones, which again I will get to later. And this guy, he costs a whopping 9 mana for a 2000/2000 precision and pierce, but he costs 2 less for each different name among Magic Stones you control, and we are playing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Magic Stones. So he can very easily be down to 1 measly black mana, which is very nice. When he enters the battlefield, destroy all J/Resonators your opponent controls, not you, not yours, your opponent controls, with attack less than 2000 in this case. He's a board wipe, he's a threat, and just like most other things in the deck, he is repeatable. Asterisk. And he's also a threat, so they are going to want to deal with him, because 2 hits from this guy and you're done so. Next, we're going to move on. All right, this is the card right here that started it all for me this morning when I was braining this one out. Magic Stone Dance of Chaos. This costs a red mana. It's combo banned with a couple of things, but not with the Phantasmal Ascendant. No, that's fine. This is totally fair. Put the top 3 cards of your Magic Stone deck into the field rested, and they gain at the end of the turn. You put them back on the bottom of your Magic Stone deck. This is a 1 will card that ramps you 3 stones. Yeah, they come in rested. I don't care about that. We're after the stones triggers. And I think all but 2 of them trigger when they either enter the field or leave the field. So we'll get to that later. 1 mana, 3 stones. Could coincidentally also just reduce your golem to 1 mana. Ooh, super cool. And of course, we can recycle this like everything else. Moving on. Necronomicon Barrier. So this is where this comes in. I did mention that Gill Lapis has a red and black Energize. This is one of the cards you can play with that Energize. You can also play Phantasmal Ascendant. I skipped over that part. You're going to want to do that sometimes too. But for a black mana, you can just play this and be like, hey, Resonators entering the field under your opponent's control don't cause their own abilities to trigger until the end of the turn. So it doesn't matter if they play that prototype Magi Trooper. They don't get to draw a card. It doesn't matter if they play a Lorite or a Fiefsing. It doesn't counter anything. It doesn't matter if they happen to be playing Warhorse. It doesn't give anything swiftness. They don't cause their own abilities triggered. Super good. You also have a second mode where you can search your deck for a Demonic World edition and put it in your hand, but we're not playing any of those. We have better things to do. Next, we're playing 2 copies of the Essence of Athena's Power. This is here for 1 reason and 1 reason only. Sometimes your opponent's going to try to get rid of your stuff by removing it from the game, or putting it from your graveyard into the removed from game area. I don't like that. I want to be able to do what I want to do. So we're playing this to put our cards back into our graveyard, or from our graveyard into the removed area for some reason. Sometimes that matters, but you can also do this to your opponent, which can really screw with those Osca decks. So, could also screw with a few other things, potentially, but Osca is the main offender here. Let's be real. She cares about her grave. We can just put it in the removed area. We're all good. Like, oh, cool. That's a neat contract you got there. What are your targets to bring back? Oh, I don't like that. How about no? And of course, she does this does a bunch of other stuff too, but we're not playing Zeus, so we don't care about it. Moving on. A part of True Power. We're playing 2 copies of this. This is a green-black chant. It is a mage art, but that's not very relevant in this situation. It has Remnant. As an additional cost to play it, you have to banish a Resonator. And it lets you put a Darkness Resonator from your graveyard into the field. What are some Darkness Resonators, you might ask? Well, how about Garion? 2 mana over 5? Ooh, that sounds pretty good to me. Or how about the Golem? Oh, 2 mana, wipe the board, get a 2000 guy. Sounds pretty good to me. So we do have that. We have 2 copies of that. This is a card that I like. It's spicy. I think it's good in the new Wonder meta. Uh, 2 copies of Unending Hatred. This costs red black. You choose one, but if you have a red J resonator and a dark J resonator, so at least two things of different colors, you can either destroy all of your opponent's 1 cost or less resonators, or look at their hand and they remove they remove a card you choose from the game. It does not target either. No targeting to be found, so it gets around wall, which I like. So 2 copies of Unending Hatred. We're also playing 2 copies of Sparkling Boon of the Magic Stones. This is in the event that you want to get cheeky. I like this. You pay black and 2. This is for a chant. Banish any number of Magic Stones. Draw X cards, then put the top X cards of your Magic Stone deck into the field rested, where X is the number of Magic Stones you banish this way. I guess theoretically, since you are playing 12 Magic Stones, you could banish 6 and ramp 6. And that could do some really janky things, which I like. We're going to get into that shortly. And of course, these can all be recycled with Athenia, or another card we're going to get to shortly. Next, we're going to do the Magic Stone Research Institute. I have hated on this card in the past. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It's pretty good. For the cost of green and black, it's an addition. When it enters the field, you banish a Magic Stone, and then you put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into the field rested. Or just into the field. It's not even rested. That's even better than I thought. I can't read. I really need to learn to read. Like I said, it's a process. It's a whole process. It's a weakness of a card game player. Reading the card explains the card, people. Remember that. Anyway, it gives all of your J resonators +2/+2 for each different name among Magic Stones you control. So potentially +12/+12, which is really good. It's a significant buff. It makes your dragon a 19/19. It makes your Phantasmal Ascendant a 16/16. Garion a 27/27, and Golem a 32/32. Scary big number. And you can also rest a recovered J ruler you control to remove your opponent's graveyard from the game. That is something that is also applicable. So we're playing 3 copies of this. Next, we have the card that I like to see, Horn of Sacred Beasts. This card is ban-worthy. It always has been. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was for a little while. Can't remember. Anyway, you don't care about the whole top half of this card. You only care about one sentence. Target player shuffles all Magic Stone decks from all the Magic Stones from his or her graveyard into his or her Magic Stone deck, then shuffles all other cards from his or her graveyard into his or her Magic Stone deck. Main deck. Good grief. Basically, you banish it. This 0-cost card, you banish it for 0, and you just put all your stuff back where it came from. You cannot deck out unless they stop this twice, and all of your Athenias. Decking out is not an option here. It also puts back all your Magic Stones, so if you happen to sack them off with the Boon or the Research Institute, you can get them back. That's what this card is in here for. It's repeatable because everything else is repeatable. That's the way this deck works. And lastly, we're playing 2 copies of Dark Sun. People like this card called the Great Wall of the 12 Sacred Knights. I've mentioned it before. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in my last video. I don't like it. It needs to go away. It's very good. Your opponent, let's say you're going second, beginning of game trigger. Yeah, I'll get Great Wall of the 12 Sacred Knights. Okay, that sounds good to me. Put it in the field. Trigger to draw. You know what? In response to that, I'll burn my Energized coin. Dark Sun. Why don't you banish a non-Magic Stone, non-J ruler entity? Oh, you have to banish your wall now because you don't have a response? Pay 0 with Gill Lapis. Target wall. Wall goes directly to the removed from game area when they have to banish it. That's why Dark Sun is in here. The bottom half of the card doesn't do anything, but Dark Sun is in here because you want to stop the early wall if possible. Mainly because it's just annoying to get over. It's not that you can't get over it. It's not that you don't have ways to get around it. It's that you don't want to see it. You hate to see it. So, now moving on to the real strategy of the deck, okay? I mentioned magic stones a lot. A lot of this stuff has to do with magic stones, and this is why. So this is Gill Lapis's specific stone from Rise of the Dragon Emperor, a magic stone of the Ebon home. If you're not playing Gill Lapis, you have to pay 300 life for this card comes in rested. Woo! But we're playing the right guy. We're playing the right guy this time, so we don't care. It comes in untapped. Treat this card as a Fire Magic Stone and a Darkness Magic Stone. That is irrelevant mostly in this deck, and you could rest it for a red or a black mana. It's pretty good. But the part that I really care about is this. When this card enters your field, remove the top card of your opponent's deck from the game. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's stuff that banishes our Magic Stones. There's stuff that puts our Magic Stones back into the deck. There's stuff that ramps our Magic Stones into the field for 1 mana. We're going to see this card repeatedly. They're going to lose a lot of cards directly from the top of their deck straight to the removed from game area. That's the whole point. We want to trigger this bad boy as much as possible. We're also playing 4 of these, Memory of Reincarnation. When this card leaves your field for a non-field zone, so if it goes from the field back to the bottom of your Magic Stone deck, or if it goes from your field to the graveyard, etc., etc., if it goes anywhere other than the field, you get to draw a card. So it's draw power, too. So that Magic Stone Dance of Chaos could say, draw 3 cards. This is also the same problem with this one. This one comes in rested if you're not playing Prisia, which, spoiler alert, we're not playing Prisia. we are not playing Prisia. Repeat. Anyway, it makes red or green. It's pretty good. All right, moving on. Next, we have some of these new fancy magic stones that I actually don't own any of, unfortunately. The Darkness Moon Fragment. It makes green or black, but it also says when it enters, you foresee 1. So you look at the top card of your deck, you're like, yeah, I like that. Put it back on top. Or you're like, no, I don't like that. Get that out of here. You put it on the bottom, so you don't have to draw it. Again, we want stones that do things when they come in or leave, and Magic Stone Sense of Chaos and Phantasmal Ascendant and Boon of the Magic Stones are going to make sure that we're able to do that on a regular basis. And Athenia, Essence of Athenia's Power, and Horn of Sacred Beasts make sure we can do it over and over and over again, and we're just going to do it until they're tired of looking at us. Anyway. Then we're also playing 1 copy of the Killing Stone. This one works, I think, exactly with Magic Stone Institute and the Boon of the Magic Stones. When it goes from your field to the graveyard, you gain 100 life and your opponent loses 100 life. This is a slow burn. But technically speaking, if you never resolve Dragon and you don't take any damage, you could just play this 40 times and win the game. It will take a very long time. You're definitely going to time in the round, but it's something that can happen. Next, we are also playing 1 copy of the Fire Moon Fragment. It does the exact same thing as the other one, 4C1 when it enters, but it makes red or black. And we're playing 1 boring copy of the Magic Stone of Scorched Bales. It doesn't do anything, it just makes red or black. This is the stone that when it comes into the field, keep it. Don't get rid of it, just keep it, because you want the other ones to cycle through the field as much as possible to do their thing. Value Town, people. Next, we're going to move on to the sideboard. We are playing 3 copies of Feasting in the sideboard. Shockingly, nothing in the main deck has villains. Surprised as you are. We all know what she does. She has tails, she has quick cast. When she enters the field, your opponent has to pay X to prevent you from countering a spell or ability. And X just happens to be the number of additions you control. This card has been errated. It says entities on the screen. That's wrong. It counts additions only. So you have Dark Sun and you have Magic Stone Research Institute. So you could be making them technically at some point pay up to 5 additional will in order to prevent you from canceling their spells or abilities with Feasting. She is in the side because you don't start with the free edition like all the very broken contract rulers. But this is something that can be put in if need be. Probably swap it out for Lorite. We are also playing 1 copy of Rogue Spectator. If you're playing red, there is no reason not to play this guy on your side, just in the event that someone wants to play some kind of cutesy, wootsy, artsy, fartsy life gain deck. You can just be like, no, play this guy directly from the side deck. He comes in, he says, players can't gain life. You reveal him at the beginning of the game, you can play him as long as he's revealed. Revenant. This card's pretty cool. I know Jeremy This deck's for you. You like Revenant. Revenant's in here. He's in the sideboard. I couldn't find room for him in the main. I tried, but he's in the side. He does have applications. For a green and a black, he is a Vampire Resonator. He's a 0/0. But he's got Flying Drain Barrier from he's got Flying Drain and Barrier from Chance. So Chance can't target him. And Chance that your opponent controls specifically cannot target him. He gains +200/+200 for each card with a different name in among all cards in your graveyard. So if you have 20 different cards with different names, he gets +4,000/+4,000. That's pretty good. He's a big boy. You can also banish a Magic Stone to give target J/Resonator your opponent controls -600/-600 until the end of the turn. So he is another way to sacrifice your Magic Stones. But he's not in the main deck because that's not a super great ability. We don't want to sack our stones a whole lot. So I did choose the boon because it kind of replaces the ones that you sack. This one just gives you a kill, possibly. In fact, he does just outright kill it if you're playing a contract ruler and you have a ruler under contract. But we're not playing that. So slightly subpar, still has options for being a big beat stick and helping you get rid of some Magic Stones in a pinch. So he is in the side. He is a good card. Next, we're moving on to Suya, the Cursed Spawn of the Star. This is an alternative card. Technically, total costs 3. The Resonator half costs 1, and it's a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, target player banishes a non-Magic Stone, non-J ruler entity. Wall of the 12 Sacred Knights. And then you put X 1/1 counters on this card, where X is the cost of the banished entity. So if they banish the wall, you get to put 2 counters on this guy. He's a 6/6 now. Woo, big boy. We don't really care about that. It does let you pay black less for the rest of the turn to play cards named Curse of Ragnarok. Curse of Ragnarok is the other half of the card. It costs 2 mana, and it does have Remnant, so you can play it from the graveyard. Look at your opponent's hand, choose a card, they remove it from the game. So it costs 1 if you've already played Suya this turn, which is pretty good. The reason he is not in the main deck is because he doesn't have Quick Cast, and I can't react to the godforsaken wall. That's why he's in the side. He's still good, he still has applications, but he is in the side because of that. Next, we're going to move on. We got 1 additional copy of the Essence of Athena's Power. I've already gone over this card. It's good. Sometimes you just don't see it enough. You want to see more of it, you can slide in an extra copy. Inferno. We're playing 3 copies of this. This card is our equalizer. Let's say your opponent has a real big board and you can't get to a golem, and they're making a big board out of habit. You can play this card, make them sack stuff until they get down to the same amount of stuff you have. If this is the only card in your hand, you can play it and make them discard their whole hand. If you have 100 life left, you can play this card, and your opponent now has 100 life left. It has applications, and then you can play the dragon from the graveyard and kill them. Anyway, so yeah, it does have 3 modes as specified. One of them affects the field, one of them affects the hand, and the other one affects their life total. There are 3 of this just in the event that it becomes necessary. It's a nasty card. We are playing 2 additional copies of Unending Hatred, just for additional board wipe capabilities in case you are facing a deck that goes wide, and you can also use it to rip a couple extra cards out of your opponent's hand. And lastly, 1 additional copy of Horn of Sacred Beasts, because you want to recycle stuff as much as possible. We're already playing 2 in the main deck, but sometimes you just don't see it enough, and you gotta want it. It's my card, and I want it now. Anyway. So that has been Road to the Ebon Home. There is a link to this down in the description. I'm going to also try to put a copy of the link to the Ruler School Force of Will Festival in the link down in the description as well. And yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble. This has been Pearlshine on Force of Will Friday. Jeremy, you my boy. Have a good one. Peace out.